I've been looking forward to this. Dave Westgarth, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Liverpool. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to be here, and likewise, also been looking forward to this one. So really excited to see where it goes, and been following your work for a long time. You were one of the first.
Same. I feel like we've been flirting with each other online for a few years. So it's nice to I genuinely appreciate making the effort to come down. So according to your LinkedIn, this is what it says. Delivery professionals, I think it was quite long, so I did trim it. Delivery professionals face a unique challenges, balancing stakeholder expectations, maintaining agile principles, and navigating ever-evolving tools like AI, all alongside delivering business results through their initiatives. You help teams and leaders tackle these challenges head-on with a blend of practical expertise, proven strategies, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Does that sound like you?
It's bigged up quite a bit, but yeah, I could nutshell it down quite considerably. But yeah, that's roughly what I'm trying to do and what I'm driving at.
Okay. So see if you recognise this as well. So you may think delivery isn't the main focus for Scrum Masters, but 1, it is. 2, if you're unfortunate enough to find yourself in a lengthy job hunt at the minute, think about what employers want from their Scrum Masters. Typically, it's increasing revenue or reducing costs. How else are you going to achieve that except through delivery? What triggered that post?
So I've been taking quite a bit of heat on this from LinkedIn for a while because I'm trying to sort of reset the balance in the Scrum Agile community. That delivery should be the thing that we're focused on. That should be step number 1. Yeah. And I sort of don't see enough attention to that from a lot of new and development Scrum Masters especially.
Yeah.
So I'm making a bit of a push to sort of look at delivery should be step 1. Without delivery, there's not a lot else that's really going to matter. Like risk identification, delivering value. If we can't deliver in the first place, I don't see how we're going to get there. So I am taking considerable heat for that at the minute. Hopefully I'll win that argument. But no, I just can't see what could be a higher priority than getting deliveries out the door.
Yeah.
And I did a bit of a follow-up post on this around the Scrum framework at large, saying if we don't deliver, we've got a lower degree of transparency. We've got nothing to inspect, so our adaptations are naturally going to become weaker. Yeah. And again, I think that stands up to scrutiny as well. I'd be interested. What's your instinct on that?
Oh, bloody hell. You're not allowed to do that, mate. No, I'm joking. I agree. I think we just had another guy in and I was talking about it on the last day. Like, you got to keep your receipts. Like, I don't understand why it's not okay to talk about delivery and how you're helping the team deliver.
Yeah.
Ultimately, there's stuff around that, like building a positive environment for high performing teams. Linking into that, I think if you haven't got your tech or continuous delivery, continuous integration, your pipeline set up from a tech point of view, if you've still got UAT over here, but you're saying the teams deliver stuff, it all boils down to how quick can we maybe not how quick we can get something out, but it all boils down to, are we delivering true value to our customers that's going to increase whatever the organization deems as valuable, whether that be profit, whether that be sign-ups, whether that be charitable donations. So I do I'm more aligned with you, I think.
Phew, that's a relief. Someone agrees.
What's the point otherwise? Like,
this is what it boils down to. If we aren't delivering them, what are we really doing?
Yeah, Scrum Masters and that get enough heat anyway about what's the point of the job? What is it? All they do is book events.
Yeah,
you've got to help the team deliver. Like,
a lot of the sort of common balls coming back at me have been around, well, it's about continuous improvement. And I say, well, continuous improvement in service of what?
Yeah, without delivering something, how do you improve it? Without running a race, how do you improve your time?
Yeah, and similarly with other things like learning, like risk management, if this isn't culminating in delivery at the finish line, it's largely going to be for nothing. And if we aren't able to deliver, then that situation can't go on forever. It's just a race against the clock in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So back to you. So, I mean, go into as much detail or as little as you want, really, but or strike the middle ground. What's the journey been like so far from this career, from a career point of view, to the point of where you're at today?
I'll try not to go too far back, but I did a very sort of regular sort of childhood and teenager. Went to college, went to university, And I fell into a trap that I think a lot of people my age fell into. I went to university and did a psychology degree, which thoroughly enjoyed, really enjoyed the subject matter and the content. But at the end of a degree, you're supposed to lead into work.
Yeah.
With a psychology degree, as you can probably imagine, there weren't queues and queues of psychology factories for me to go into.
Yeah.
So I bounced around a little bit for a few years after that. I had some jobs that I wouldn't say were fantastic, but they paid the bills. And I did what I should have done at the start of the degree, which was have a look at the job market and see where the opportunities were. And they happened to be in digital and IT, which was great. I'd played around with computers and software a little bit as a kid. So that was sort of a natural attunement that I had. So stayed for a couple of years, went back to university and did a master's in IT at Northumbria, which was great. And that led me into my first job in the industry in a small consultancy in Sunderland, which again was great. And I sort of had ambitions, or my vision was I'll get into software development, I'll become a good programmer, maybe develop my own thing one day. But I was in a consultancy that was a little strange. It was a really small challenger consultancy, and it had a lot of young people there. But because I'd been sort of delayed getting to this step one, I was about 5 to 10 years older than most of the staff there. The project I was working on, our project lead actually left the business, and they were looking around for someone to step in.
Yeah.
And I think naturally, because I was one of the older, more mature ones, one you could sort of put in front of a client and give some confidence.
Yeah.
I sort of stepped into those shoes, and that was when I moved from the development focus to the more delivery project management at the time, and then on and on to Agile, and then on from there.
Love it. Standard question, mate. What does Agile mean to you?
So it means a few things. I think the number one thing for me is it's the vehicle or the engine of continuous improvement within a team and an organization. There's a lot of exploration that comes along with Agile ways of working. Lots of things that we're going to try and learn fast. We're going to try and fail fast. So it really does serve as a bit of a cornerstone for continuous improvement throughout the team and the organization. But I also think it's a bit of a pragmatic acknowledgement that, especially in software development, we're not going to know everything up front. We should expect to fail. We should expect people to change their minds. We should expect customers to come to us at the 11th hour with different questions and ask for different things.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a nod to, okay, we're going to try our best to get what we think we need to get out the door, but we know we're going to make mistakes along the way, and let's just be upfront and open about that in the first place.
Yeah, I love it, mate. So according to LinkedIn, this may have changed now, and I think people will be genuinely interested in this because you are, a big advocate for continuous improvement and stuff. So you've got 63 licenses and certifications. What's the motivation behind that?
So that's evolved a little bit as I've gone, to be honest. It started because I thought it would just be a good advert to put in the window for interviews and employers. I thought, I've got half a dozen certifications under your belt, that can't hurt. And then I ended up doing the PSM1 at a point in my career, and so almost sort of childishly or naively, I thought, well, how quickly could I get all of these? Could I conceivably go the full mile and get all of these? And started chipping away at those. And of course, along the way, you sort of figure out the certifications aren't what I should be focused on. I should be focused on what I'm learning and can I apply that, and how is that going to help my teams? So I shifted that focus and sort of paused on the certification spree for a bit. But as I touched on, I started in sort of the development track. And after a few years, what I'd found was a lot of my development skills had started to atrophy quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I changed the focus from the delivery, especially Agile and Scrum focus certifications, to more of the technical ones.
Yeah, you do a lot of AWS stuff, haven't you? I think.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm at a consultancy at the minute that's got a really strong partnership.
Okay.
So we get a lot of the exam fees and stuff are waived for us. So that's been
cool.
Great. You've still got to do it, don't get me wrong, but it's great not having to pay for it. But yeah, things like AWS, Microsoft Azure, GCP, even Databricks I've got ambitions of doing this year. Because when I first got into delivery and project management, I found because you could straddle both camps of the technical and the business, typically your customers and stakeholders are a lot more forgiving because they know that you can get a lot out of you.
Yeah.
But I found that as I started to lose a grip on that technical side, I had to rely more and more on some of the elements that I don't quite like about delivery. Things like when people wear the I'm not technical badge.
Okay, yeah.
That's a big turn off for me. I think it's fair enough you don't need to be technical, but to wear that as a badge of honor, I think is a bit of an own goal.
I'm not technical.
Yeah.
The shield goes up.
Do not talk to me about this topic. I am not answering this question. Yeah. But that was sort of the focus for the second half. And over the past couple of years, I've just thought, why not really push it and see how much I can get through? And you've mentioned the number. I'm only trying to sort of capture the big ticket ones on LinkedIn on the profile, because I think it makes a difference in the job hunt, and recruiters reach out to you based on those.
So there's more than that.
Yeah, quite a few. I don't want to do a bit of a shameless plug, but I've got a link tree.
Mate, it's not shameless. Look down that camera and plug what you want.
Camera. So I've got a link tree. If you go on there's a board called L&D 22, 23, 24, and that's got everything. And it's in the hundreds now. So
right, I'll put it in the show notes as the professionals.
That was not a brag. He put me up to that.
Cut that bit out. It's all Dave. No, I'll put it in the show notes. Because I think it's from the outside looking in, like, it's brilliant. Like, I have not got the motivation to do that. So, where'd you find the time? And how do you go about learning? Because if I'm watching this, I'm thinking, I've watched Dave. He shows up, he does the work, and he gets the results, and he's working, and he's putting out this LinkedIn content. He's debating people online. Like, how do you? What's people love to know about the process, don't they? Like, so what's the process? Well, how do you do it? How do you fit it all in?
So I think the first thing to be really upfront about is I'm very lucky I don't have kids, because I think as soon as you have kids, your time just gets absorbed straight away. Yeah. So it's much, much harder to put the type of time in that I put in. So especially if you've got young kids, my method might not work for you. So be aware. But one of my best sort of habit stacks I've got, and I've commented on this on LinkedIn a couple of times, is I do a lot of bike cardio, especially longer rides, like especially 60, 90, 120 minutes. Yeah. And I just sit Udemy there, because I think there's a temptation to think, I'll just listen to some music, or, you know what, I'll put something on Netflix. But you can convert that, what I would call dead time, into something much more valuable. And the really neat thing, I think the thing I'm trying to play with now, is if you can listen to that on double speed, or better yet, treble speed, you've basically created a time machine now, and you can really, really quickly churn through a lot of this stuff. And especially with things like Scrum or AWS exams, the key for me is just shellacking yourself with as much of the content as you can, testing that out in practice tests and seeing where your gaps are. Because there'll be a lot of it that you sort of naturally attune to, you sort of get, and it fits your mental models. It's just about finding quickly where your gaps are, and then deep diving into those areas to patch the gaps so you can get through. Yeah. The other thing I say is, and this is a perfectionist trait, I think, there's a lot of people, and I've done a couple of jokey style posts on this as well. There's a lot of people, I think, going to these exams thinking it would be great if I got 100%. I would love to ace this exam and be perfect. And don't get us wrong, it's good, and it's good for your vanity, and it boosts your ego nicely. But I always look at it as a bit of I've prepared for too long here. I should have drawn up my preparation a fortnight ago, got the sort of passing mark, and then I could be onto something else. Yeah. Which is the way I sort of conceptualize it. Like, if I get an AWS exam and I'm scoring 900 to 950, I'm thinking I've probably prepared too long here, because I could have passed with like 800 and then I'm off.
Does learning come quite naturally to you then? Because if I'm picturing myself sitting on a bike, I've had fucking notepads everywhere, mate, and I'd be falling off it. Like, do you write notes when you're on the bike? Do you dictate it? Are you just a natural? You can just absorb it and.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't consider myself when I first went into university. When you're on that track of school, college, university,
So I did the school bit.
I heard you didn't turn up. Actually, I heard you've dropped out the past couple of years. What happened there?
Out of what?
That was cool.
Oh yeah. I used to walk around with a Capri Sun and a pen in my pocket, mate. And then, I didn't get along really.
Yeah, you were telling me before we started that you worked so hard in the morning, you had to give everyone else a chance to catch up on the afternoon.
That was it, mate. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
No, but I think when I was in school, college, uni, that cycle, it is quite easy, because I think you're primed for it, like all the way from primary school. The ambition of the teacher is to get you into secondary school. The ambition there is to get you into college. The ambition there is to get you into uni. So I think on that natural slope, it's quite nice. But I did find I struggled when I went back to uni to do my master's, because I thought, it's all right, I'll just show up and did what I did last time. Yeah. And my brain just wasn't operating that way anymore after a few years in the real world. But there's something in there on learning styles, I think, that you're driving at. So for me, sitting in front of a video and just absorbing as much as I can seems to work. Yeah. Just battering myself with the content until it goes in.
And what you use Udemy?
Udemy's one of my favorites, but AWS Skill Builder is very similar for AWS stuff. There's all sorts of Skillshare, all sorts of options like that.
If any of those options are watching and you'd like to subscribe, like to sponsor the podcast, then please feel free. I'm not afraid to sell out. So yeah, you sat on the bike in the morning, in the evening.
Typically the evenings, because I do quite a bit of weightlifting as well, and I did try to do this weightlifting, but I found I couldn't focus. I found myself just sitting there between sets, not doing anything. To be perfectly honest with you just start watching the video instead.
You did a post this morning, didn't you, about, was it incremental improvement on weights?
Yeah. I brought my leg press PB last week, and I thought, let's take a quick picture and put it on Instagram. Let's rake some likes in it.
Yeah, a bit thirsty, mate.
But I was sort of thinking about it as I was doing the lift and thinking, this is a little bit like professional development, because you can think, well, you can put 5 kilos on for Scrum, and then I can deepen my knowledge and turn that into 10 and 15 and 20, and then I can bring in cloud, and then I can bring in data, and this sort of, in weightlifting, it's called progressive overload. You get used to operating at your limits. That becomes slightly easier, so you push a little bit further.
Yeah.
And I think you can encapsulate your L&D journey in the same way. Like I'm sure you've seen PSM1 Scrum Masters who never move past that level.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sad. And I think there should be a bit of a, even just professionally for yourself, there should be a bit of a duty of care towards your professional learning journey and continuing to progressively elaborate and overload what you can do.
Yeah. Rightly or wrongly, I like to think I've evolved over the last 10 years, but I used to wear it as a badge of honor that I hadn't done a class. I'd be like, yeah, I passed the exams, but I haven't done a class.
Yeah.
But now looking back, I probably think, I probably could have done with surrounding myself with people who have done like a proper PSM or a CSM course. So because I just used to go on scrum.org, buy the voucher, consume everything, and then take the exam. I don't think there's any completely 100% right or wrong way of doing it, but I think to agree with you, I think you probably owe it to yourself to continue on with that.
You've taken the words out of my mouth, because I've done a very similar thing to you on a lot of the scrum.org ones. Just absorb the content, get in for the exam and see what happens. And usually I've managed to get through them, which is a combination of good luck and study, I would assume. But equally, I think there's no reason to engage in that class early in your journey when you might not be able to glean as much value as you can if you take that away, try and apply it for a year or two.
Yeah.
And now you come in loaded with, okay, I've tried this. Doesn't seem to work as per the guide. PST or CST, can you tell me where I'm going wrong here?
I always say, do your research on the instructor, not the course. Because I think, and people may correct me on this, but I know if you're a certified Scrum trainer with Scrum Alliance, I think you've got a bit more freedom in how you teach the course.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a professional Scrum trainer with scrum.org, I think the course is the course.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they can flex it in the moment, but I think the slides are the slides and the course is the course. They're a bit more rigid. So I always say, well, the course is probably going to be more or less the same. Do a deep dive into the instructor. Look at their background and see what and then you can question them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this hasn't worked. I've been trying it. What would you do? Or how would you go about it? So I always say, look for the instructor, not necessarily the course.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the journey to becoming a CST as well is, a lot of it is creating your own content, creating your own collateral around how you're going to teach it. Yeah.
That was a joke.
Yeah, and, the PSTs especially, I think I haven't experienced this because I haven't done any of the CSM training sessions. I've done some of the material, but the criticism I see is there's a bit more wider variance in terms of the quality level on the CST front compared to the PST.
It's probably because it's standardized with PST, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. But I must admit, every PST I've worked with or spoken to, sort of have a deep respect for the level of knowledge and that they've actually been out there and done it.
Yeah.
I don't see many PSTs, and this might just be my ignorance, but I haven't seen many who are sort of in that lifetime trainer role. I think a lot of them, and there's a couple I'm thinking of. One of my good friends, Martin Hinchelwood, he's sort of a Microsoft MVP. He does AWS, sort of the cloud platform, and Azure migrations.
Videos as well, doesn't he?
And he's really a strong font of knowledge on the PST front. And for me, that's the type of trainer you should be looking for, someone who's been there, done it. They're not just concentrating on Scrum. They do a lot of other things. They can apply, they can collide a lot of worlds for you, which is great.
Would you prefer to see yourself more as a delivery manager or a Scrum Master, or you're not bothered, or something in between?
So you might not like this, but to be honest, I still see myself as a project manager in a lot of ways. I always, when I started my career, I thought I would love to be looked at, and this is another word that people don't like, but when we're thinking we need a strong project management resource to come and look at that, I thought I would love that to be me.
Yeah.
But delivery is something I'm trying to talk more and more about, because especially on LinkedIn, you could be fooled into thinking we're more different than we are alike. And I think Scrum Master, Product Manager, Delivery Manager, Project Manager, Program Manager, we are more similar than we are alike.
Yeah. Got more in common than...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And one thing I always sort of see, or what I try to boil it down to, is all of these roles, ultimately what we're trying to do is deliver business results through technology and people.
Yeah.
We've all got different ways we're going to do that. We're all going to apply different techniques, different patterns, but that is the guiding mantra. And what I sort of tried to tease at with that delivery manager post, and I want to do more like this, is you shouldn't consider yourself a slave to the framework or the principles or the pattern that you've got. I really like I don't know if it's a Marx quote or someone else, but I've got these are my principles and I've got them. And if you don't like them, I'll get some more.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that we should be as delivery professionals. We should think, let's try these principles. They might work in this case, they might not. And if they don't be scared to go back to the well and try something from somewhere else.
Yeah, it's just a big toolbox, isn't it?
Exactly.
Just a big bag of bits.
People even say that about, I'm not a fan of SAFe. I don't think it's as good as it's made out to be, especially in the marketing.
Scaled Agile framework.
Yeah, apologies, acronyms.
That's all right.
But I talked to Michael Lloyd about that once, and he said the way he thinks about it is it's just a really nice catalogue of tools, patterns, and ideas. And I thought that's exactly the way to think about SAFe. It's a good sort of catalogue for you to look at.
Firm beliefs, loosely held.
Yep.
Is another way of putting it. And that doesn't mean you stand for nothing, but if someone comes to one with evidence, you got to go, actually, yeah, fair enough. You're right there. I may need to change my way of thinking if it fits the context that you find yourself operating in.
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't care. People, project management.
I think it's a trap everyone falls into, especially when you see new Scrum Masters coming through and they get their PSM1 and think, right, I'm going to force Scrum in here. It's going to do this job.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I'm being asked to do, regardless of the project, the environment, the level of complexity, the team, whatever we're working on, Scrum is going to do this.
Yeah, it's like putting jelly through a letterbox.
Yeah.
It's just going to be messy.
Yeah.
And horrible. If it doesn't, it might not be the thing.
Yeah.
Don't know where that came from, but there we are.
Freudian slip if I ever heard one.
Yeah. I was going to say thumb it in, but I thought about best not say that. Back on track. So I've got a question here, which I obviously sent you beforehand, and it says, where do organizations go wrong regarding agility? And in your opinion, what are the reasons for that? Wrong's probably a bit too strong, but what are the challenges you see, without naming names, but in your vast experience?
Vast, yeah, that's making me feel old, thank you. So there's three broad camps I can think of. Number one is it's going to make us faster. Maybe, not necessarily.
Yeah.
It might help you rule things out faster, it might help you learn faster, might help you figure out what track you should be on faster. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to deliver that faster.
Yeah.
So speed's one. Agile does not equal speed. Scrum does not equal speed. It equals learning, exploration, ruling stuff out as quickly as you can. The second two are sort of interlinked. So I would start with labeling. And I think that this is getting less and less prevalent, actually. But there's a lot of temptation to just apply the Agile labels, do the Agile process, apply the Scrum events, apply the Scrum roles, and it'll handle itself. And I think that that's been shown time and time again. We can call our project managers Scrum Masters. We can change our buzz meeting at the start of the day to a daily Scrum. That's not what's going to change things. But that can be a helpful step towards getting to a mechanical or a zombie level of Scrum. I still think that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
You're not at the finish line yet, but you've made a step forward. And this sort of links to my final one. And this is one I see not so much in the junior or the new organizations that'll try that labeling, but more of the advanced ones who try the cargo culting approach.
Yeah, okay.
So they'll take things like the Spotify model, for example, and say, okay, this works well for Spotify, let's do it here. No consideration to the problems that Spotify are trying to solve and what you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
No consideration if you're operating at the same scale. And this is one that I talk about a lot with Netflix when people say, well, Netflix do it this way, there's no barriers to production, everyone can push to production and they fix their own problems. What they don't mention, or the biggest thing I think they don't mention, is Netflix is a commercial behemoth who can pay X more than you can for developers. I would expect them to be slightly better than the developers that the natural of landscape is going to have.
Yeah.
And the developers that you can attract as, say, I don't know, say a Mail House in the back end of Liverpool, you're probably not going to be able to attract the same level of talent that Netflix can. So maybe we need a slightly different approach here. And that's not to pick on any developers who are newer learning. I'm sure you'll get to that Netflix standard eventually. This is just an acknowledgement of not everyone's there from day one.
Yeah. It's like comparing someone who's just done parkrun once to an Olympic 5,000
Get yourself in an
metre.
Olympic trial.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, fair play if you put yourself in that position. But you're probably you probably learn a bit from it, but you're still going to come last in the Olympic trials, and that's okay. Is there a perfect path to Scrum Master and beyond? I don't know what the beyond is, but is there a perfect path to Scrum Master?
You've stolen my thunder. So the beyond, I think, is going to be different for everyone. And I think that this is something that lots of Scrum Masters sort of wrestle with, because I did a podcast earlier this week where we were talking about commercial skills for project managers.
Is that a round table one?
Yeah.
I saw that last night, yeah.
And one thing we touched on were commercial skills for Scrum Masters, because I think if you want to develop and become a head of department, a VP, even a C-suite, or do something like what you're doing, you're going to eventually
Making it up.
Yeah. I think you're doing pretty well with your everyday Agile consultancy, to be perfectly honest.
Back to you. Yeah, go on.
But I'm sure you'd agree, there's commercial skills that you've had to learn that most Scrum Masters are either having an allergic reaction to or don't want to learn, that you've got to if you want to move on and develop. If you will eventually become responsible for a profit and loss statement. Yeah. And if you don't have commercial skills, that's consistently going to become a loss statement.
Yeah.
So going beyond is going to be different for everyone. One method I quite like for getting in, and I don't know if this is because it's the way I went or it's because I think it's a good idea, but actually being part of a team, especially a Scrum team, and figuring out how Scrum works from that developer focus is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I think that just old school management stuff, this gives you a lot of credibility with teams that you'll then work with. You're not coming in as sort of and this is sort of a callback to management culture of the 80s. There was the opinion that we can extract management skills out into a discipline of their own and just plug a manager in no matter what they're doing. Really, the sort of contextual or the tacit knowledge that you develop as a developer or an individual contributor in that team really helps to win some respect and goodwill from your team.
Yeah.
But also gives you a much better idea of the inner workings of the environment, the culture, the industry, the vertical that you're operating in. So I think being part of a team is a really good step, but it's not necessarily the only way.
So if we assume someone's got a bit of this imaginary person, they've got some project management skills or delivery skills, they've done their PSM1, they've seen your stuff. Have you got like 3 books, courses, or certifications from a more technical point of view where you're like, you should do them first if you want to increase your technical knowledge for teams?
Good question. Really good question. So there's a few resources that I recommend.
Yeah.
Cloud, I think, is probably the best first stop for people wanting to develop technically, because a lot of the cloud stuff from all the big providers is really set up for business folk, really that novice level practitioner. So it's really easy for you to hook into that. You'll not feel like you're trying to scale the mountain as you learn this.
When you say cloud, do you just mean learning how to set up environments within, or just learning the basics of
just learning the basics of any cloud service provider. So my favorites are AWS, Azure, and OCI.
Yeah.
But there's Google Cloud as well. But just getting onto their foundation level material that's typically all available for free on the internet for you to consume at your own pace is a really good step one. And cloud equips you with lots of other stuff. It's got sort of the typical food groups of working in technology, like data, network, and storage, compute. You'll learn a hell of a lot there. One, I don't know if they're a company, I think they're a charity, to be honest, but there's an organization called Free Code Camp who I rave about as well.
Okay.
They do all sorts of stuff. They've got a website that includes, I think it's 6 free certifications, all with a technical focus, which is really good. They've got reams and reams of blog posts, articles, loads of stuff for you to get up to speed on. But the real thing I like about them is their YouTube channel. They've got an endless sort of barrage of content for anything technical related that you can think of. And they also do really good bootcamp style videos for foundation level exams like AZ900, Cloud Certified Practitioner, Google Cloud Digital Leader. All available for free, all available on YouTube. You could do it in a weekend and then get the exam the next week.
Free Code Camp.
Yeah.
Right. I'll put it in the notes.
I'll put some links in for you.
Yeah. Send them on later and I'll put them in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any others? So you may name 2.
I think, I'm an instructor on Udemy, so this is not neutral advice. I think Udemy is a great place to go, because I always say, even though I've got courses on there, never pay more than $10 for them. So it's pretty cheap content. The problem or the issue I often have with Udemy is there's a chasm in terms of the quality level. You can get people who I think are really good, people like Stefan Marek, who's sort of he owns the AWS space on Udemy, and I've used his courses to get through the vast majority of what I've done, which is great. But the problem is there's no barrier to entry on Udemy. Anyone can show up, and I've done some Agile and Scrum courses that were a bit of a horror show, and I thought, why has this person done it?
So Udemy, Free Code Camp, and
after that,
Google, cloud services.
Yeah, the two big ones on the cloud front would be AWS Skill Builder, which is AWS's L&D platform, and Microsoft Learn, which is for Microsoft Azure, but also the wider Microsoft ecosystem. All their stuff's available on there.
Is there anything outside the Agile bubble which you think people should be drawing inspiration from, or you personally draw inspiration from?
There's a lot that I draw inspiration from, but I think a lot of it gets laboured as well. Like the sports analogies, for example. I love watching, especially a lot of the F1, when you look at the telemetry that goes on and the sort of attention to detail and the relentless focus on getting results. But I do think a lot of that gets laboured. Things outside the bubble that we should focus on. There's a lot to be said for things like systems thinking, which I think are great. And that sort of naturally elevates you outside again, another trap I see a lot of Scrum Masters fall into is they work with a team for a long time and they forget that their responsibilities to the organisation still exist. Yeah. And I think taking that systems thinking approach really helps you understand that. Other things like business and strategy acumen, I think, are really helpful. As I touched on, commercial skills, strategic skills, understanding why delivery is important, understanding what our cash flow and our value streams look like is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm reading a lot of Marty Kagan stuff at the minute around things like the product operating model. I know I'm not the only one who's done this podcast that said that, but I think there's a lot of good ideas in there as well that we can, especially on the product front, if you want to round out your skills in that area, that can be really helpful. He's got some fairly strongly held opinions about Agile, especially the people who are proponents of it. But I think there's a lot of good in there as well that we can absorb.
Yeah. Which one? Which have you read all three?
No, I'm working on Transformed at the minute.
I've finished. I've read that one. I haven't read the other two, so I need to read the other two. I've done it backwards, really. But Transformed, it was the most relevant to a client I'm with at the moment. I bought it for the leadership team and said, just ignore the bit about Agile people, because I'm not one of them.
The other bit I'm working on that's more of an, the Breathe Neutral was more of an ally is the team topology stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really got the jetpack on it at the minute. So I'm currently working my way through one piece, but then I'm going back to team topologies to have another read, because I think that's the direction of travel for a lot of organizations now, and that's another one that's well worth getting under your belt.
I need to reread that. This is more of a me being nosy question. Like, how did you what was the trigger for to sharing as much as you do online? And I've noticed you've, been speaking a lot more, being on a few more podcasts. Does that just come naturally from just showing your work out loud? And the reason I asked that question, I don't know what your position is, if you're freelance or what, but I keep saying it, put yourself out there a bit more. You don't have to be a LinkedIn influencer or be cringy. But yeah, I think coming from other people, like why do you do it, and what are the benefits you've seen, and what are the opportunities that have come?
So before I answer the question, one thing I really liked about when I stumbled across you was I thought, here's another human on LinkedIn. This isn't someone who's just given corporate spiel, or this is why I'm dead good at stand-ups, or why I'm dead good at retros. I actually found someone who was actually putting some personality in.
Yeah.
And I think that was really nice.
No, thank you.
And because you're right, I get called that now, an influencer, or worse still, a thought leader, and I sort of want to spit when I hear those words. It just I don't want to be thought of as that. But yeah, I think the reason I started was because, again, I thought it would be a good advert for jobs. I thought it would show that I'm engaged with my industry. I'm taking my continuous learning seriously. I think it's very easy to say you're a lifelong learner, but I thought I can really demonstrate this in a meaningful way and just show I'm prepared to keep learning. I do it all the time. Here's the evidence. But you're right, it's probably gone beyond that now. And it's one thing that I'm thinking on more and more is, what do I actually want to do this for? It does keep the door open to that sort of doing your own thing type stuff, a lot like what you've done. But I am sort of in that exploring stage of what else could I do with this? Is there other stuff that I could do to maybe do like a solopreneurship type journey? Is there something else I could parlay this into, like some kind of community or something like that? I think the important thing is you give yourself options if you do it. The doors are opening to you now. They're not just going to slam shut in your face. Because I see, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, people join and they try really hard for 3 months, don't get as far as they thought they would, and then they pack it in. But I think the people who really stand the test of time are the ones who continually are prepared to share things, prepared to show where they're learning things, prepared to show where they're evolving. And a couple of examples stand out. Chris Storm was a big inspiration for me when I started out, especially on the retrospective front. I think he did a lot of really good and creative work in the Agile space. And more recently, Michael Lloyd with his dysfunction mapping stuff. I don't think that would have taken off in the way it did if he hadn't been that sort of community cornerstone that he became.
You should be really proud of that, I think, because that's an actual product that, you know, one could argue, again, not necessarily my opinion, but, well, it is my opinion. There's not many of us in the community who actually create something.
Yeah.
And I think he should be given a tremendous amount of props for actually, you know, that's now his. Like, he will be forever known as the creator of that. And that's rare in our space, I think.
Yeah, I've not said this to him, but I think he's a much better man than me, because I think I'd be tempted to give in to, well, I should build a certification on this. I should create a 1, 2, 3, and then I should do dysfunction mapping for cloud and dysfunction mapping for data. And so he's a much better man than me, how he wants to keep it in that neutral ground and keep it at like, this is something that you can use. If you think it's good, great. If you think it's crap, forget about it. Yeah. And I think that's some of the product influence on him, because I think the product community are much better at that than we are. I think we look to, if we catch lightning in a bottle, we look to try and freeze it straight away and keep it there and make it perfect. Whereas the product guys, I think, have got much more of that cowboy level of pragmatism. I'll try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll find something else.
Yeah. What's next for you, mate? What else is on your mind? Where do you see what's on the horizon for the rest of the year, either certification wise, career wise, speaking? What doors are open this year?
It's an interesting one. So I'm doing more and more speaking engagements, which has been great. I sort of told myself 2 years ago, you need to start saying yes to more of this stuff instead of just hiding away and typing on the back of a computer. So I'm hoping to do more stuff like this and build a bit more of a presence and share what I hope are some good ideas or useful ideas for people. The career question is an interesting one. I've talked to a few Agilists who are sort of thinking about leaving the scene now, and I don't think I'm there yet, but I am sort of starting to wonder what I want to do after this, because I hand on heart I enjoy doing the delivery management stuff. I really love working in especially project delivery and product delivery, but I sort of want to see what other challenges I can do, and what I talk about often is sort of building in more of what you can do potentially. So I'd like to see what else could I do, what else could I turn my hand to, and what else could I try. One thing I've had a bit of a fascination with for a while is trying to develop something of my own. Like I did have ambitions of doing a SaaS product before all this AI stuff come in and largely killed it.
Yeah.
But maybe I could do something AI related that's, I don't know, useful, effective, something I could learn from, because I've always thought I would love to work in sort of the London or the American startup scene and just try it and see how it goes and see what I can learn there.
Yeah.
And that's an experience again I might try to get under my belt at some point.
Cool. Any final thoughts? Anything else on your mind?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered largely everything that we covered in the questions, but I hope some of it's been useful. I hope some of it's been helpful for people.
I think it'll be massively helpful, mate. And I think the level of sharing you do, you know, I tip my hat to you. I couldn't do it. I haven't got I've got the drive for certain things, but genuinely I couldn't do the amount of learning that you do.
I think you've got a lot to share now, especially with people who are coming to a similar place where I am, not necessarily at the end of their Agile journey, but they're thinking about what life could look like after that. I think there's a hell of a lot you could share now, because you've done sort of your forces transition piece. You've been an effective operator in the space, and now you've escaped and you're doing your own thing, which comes with its own
Yeah, I mean, I'm still on site. I still am doing the job. I wasn't for a while, and then a client came along in Liverpool, and I was like, well, you know, that's literally what all the marketing has been aimed at. So, yeah, I'm in a bit of a weird place, because I didn't for about a year. I didn't post about. I don't like writing about stuff that I'm not doing. So I didn't post about anything to do with Agile, really. It was all about, this is the business, this is what other people are doing. And then plug in this. Then we've got this bloody event in October, 20th of October, Titanic Hotel, Liverpool. Tickets below. So I think I'm in an interesting space of trying to find the balance between all three. Because I can't do any of this without the business doing well.
Yeah.
So it's, but I think there's been enough. I don't know. Maybe I was posting stuff too early. I think there's been enough of me going, well, this is how I would do a daily Scrum, or this is how I would do a retro, or I don't know. There's far better people than me talking about that stuff now. So I'm trying to find the balance of everything, whilst at the same time I've got LinkedIn and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
But that limits you because I don't want to saturate people more than I already do as well.
No, I agree, but I've got a couple of thoughts I would plug out. I think you did a lot of that before. There's a lot of new people in the community now who probably haven't seen that. So there'd be a lot of stuff that you could add to new people who haven't seen you. But equally, I would think more about what you've done since graduating from a sole contributor delivery person to the agency you're doing now. Because that's a path I think a lot of people would like to go down but don't know where to get started.
Yes. And that I will take that feedback, and no one's ever really said that to me. My apprehension of that is how much I don't want to come across as a business guru.
Yeah.
Or I don't know how comfortable I am opening up that. Because I think if I go down that route, because of my nature, I'm going to have to go all in and share. So like there's a YouTuber called Ali Abdul.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the productivity guru was.
And he opens up his business accounts.
Oh.
And but he says, this is the revenue I had from here. This is the revenue I had from there. So I think that's what people are really interested in. I don't necessarily think they're interested in the how. Well, they are, but they never follow through with it anyway. Like I've told people how to do it. And then they sit back and go, that's fucking hell, that's quite a lot. Like, and then they go and they do it for a bit and then it doesn't work. And then they pull back. So I suppose, it's in it. I will think about it. It's something I'm consciously, I don't want to come across as a show off either.
Well, I'll tell you why I would like you doing it. You'll have seen a lot on LinkedIn, especially. There's a lot of people who say, I can get you a Scrum Master job. You can be earning 6 figures in a fortnight. Yes. I can get you endless contracts. It's exactly the same on the agency front. Agency's dead easy. I can show you to set one up in a fortnight. You can be getting 6 figures a month.
Yes.
Whereas I think you would actually come in and give more of a pragmatic, realistic view of, this is what life's really like. This is what I found that I didn't like. These are the traps that we're waiting.
Yeah, and I don't think it's nepotism. I don't think I'd go as far as to say that. But the context that I've found myself in, the ex-forces thing has helped with certain clients. If you're in the defense space, okay, well, you were in the Navy, you must get the defense space. Do I fuck? But because they've made that connection already, that has been a great help. But I don't think that can necessarily be always replicated. And even now I'm like, oh, cringing. But it's just, there has been an element of luck because of the ex-forces stuff as well.
Good luck, bad luck?
No, good luck because it's got my foot in the door. But I don't think it would be, it's not, you can't copy and paste it unless you do 7 years in the Navy and then do all of the stuff on LinkedIn beforehand.
Yeah.
You can't, there is no process to follow really, apart from just keep turning up every day and be clear on what your offering is. So yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't criticize yourself for that. We all play the cards we're dealt.
Yeah, I think that's been a theme. Anyway, yeah, I will take that on board. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm ready to open that Pandora's box up yet. And I don't know if we've got one person interested. So yeah.
If anyone else is interested, drop a comment on this video saying, Jack, tell us about the agency.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to really hide, so I don't know why when I do the Q&A stuff, I answer it. So there'll be a Q&A video next week, actually, about the business stuff. Yeah, but thank you. That's very kind. I'm very good at taking compliments, as you can see. Yeah. Any final thoughts, mate, about you? Where can people get in touch? Where would you like people to get in touch if you're open to that?
I suppose the main place for me is LinkedIn. Yeah. At Dave Westgarth, I share quite regularly. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Tell me what you think. And And as I say, my link tree is sort of my one-stop shop for all sorts of stuff I do, like mind maps, like retrospective boards, like agile ways of working, sessions and workshops. Have a look on there, especially if you're new to the role of the industry. There's probably some templates and stuff in there that can give you a bit of a head start on running your sessions and driving real meaningful change.
Nice one, mate. I'll put all of those links in the description, and as always, around there will be a box somewhere with a video with another interesting person. If you've got this far, you probably enjoy it. There it'll be. There, I'm on camera now. It'll be up there. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Thanks for coming. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, everyone.